Apologies, everybody. Trying to figure out these audio issues that I'm having. Looks like I got rid of that infinite regression loop that was happening. The only problem is that was my ability to play you guys my desktop audio. So I'm wondering if I could add that as a separate. Sorry to just bear with me for 1 second. No, that's not going to work. All right, guys. Well, my name is Elliot Haynes, and I am with the 2-Bit Circus Foundation, and I'm here today to kind of do a little introduction to music production. Gonna do my best to get you guys to the point that you can hear what I'm doing as I'm doing it, but running into a little bit of difficulty as I did last week again, so my apologies. But yeah, I am the Education and Playful Learning Coordinator at the 2-Bit Circus Foundation. We do STEAM education for K through 12, professional development, and so on. And yeah, during these tough times, we wanted to just kind of bring as much educational material that is free and that everybody can access as possible. So yeah, I'm coming in to kind of talk a little bit about music and what I do. I work on a program called Ableton Live, which is a digital audio workspace, or DAW, and it's a really great program that I highly recommend to everybody, but it costs a bit of money, and I know these are tough times for everybody, myself included, so we are looking for ways to do things on the cheap or on the free, and I came across this website that I'm kind of hovered over, as you'll see on the home screen here. I don't work with these people. I'm not affiliated with them in any way, but they have a website that I come across that allows you to produce music online. So anybody that's at home that is interested in making some beats and wants to kind of follow along with this tutorial, I'm going to be using this website, soundation.com, and you can sign up for free. You just need an email address and verify your email. So I would advise that anybody that wants to learn a bit about music, just do that really quickly while I'm talking, and I will kind of just go over a little bit about what this is going to entail. So yeah, in music production, you know, in any, whether you're working with musicians, whether you're working by yourself on a computer, you know, you're always going to have layers of instruments on top of each other, layers of vocals. Your song is going to have a lot of different layers compiled on top of each other. Often in a professional studio, you may have seen people working at that gigantic mixing board with, you know, hundreds and hundreds of little knobs, and those are all different channels, which are layers of sound. So each one of those little knobs is mixing volume for a different element of sound that is taking part in that song. So I'm just going to jump in really quick here so you can see what Soundation looks like in the actual studio that they have. I've just set up a little tab for it. It's going to make me log in anyway. Sorry, bear with me on this. So once you signed in, it'll bring you into the studio workspace. And that's this right here. As you can see, they do have like you can get a purchase version for a little more that allows you to do a bunch of other stuff. But this this free version that it comes with has a lot of really cool features that you can check out. And I am going to try really quick while I'm going to put one of these on, and then I'm going to see if I can get the audio to play you what's happening in the song. So let's give this a try. I'm going to open up the one that says hip hop and trap. So these are all samples of different projects. Oh, I think I just figured out what the problem was, which will make me really, really excited. Okay, so yeah, I guess my only problem here, guys, is going to be that I'm not going to be able to really see. Oh, you know what? I know a way we can figure that out too. I'm going to ask my lovely wife. Can you do me a huge favor?
What?
Could you log into the Twitch 2-Bit Circus account on your computer?
The one that you sent me to the link?
No, it's here. I'll send you the link. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, apologies to everybody as I'm working through these little bits of problems, but we will be, I do believe I actually just figured out what was driving me so crazy, so we should be good for an actual lesson today. So yeah, let me just... So it's twitch.tv. I'll send you the link. I don't know, I don't want to sign into my emails.
Okay, so it's over.
It's just twitch.tv/.
Yeah.
2bitcircus.org, one word. So TWOBITCIRCUSORG, one word. Okay, so anybody that was out there that might have been following that infinite regression loop, if you run into that, I just figured out what the problem was. I had my Twitch channel open so that I could keep an eye on comments and follow along with everybody as they're going. Well, not unfortunately, I love Macs, so I'm not going to say unfortunately, but unfortunately for Macs, there are a great deal of compatibility issues when dealing with third-party plugins and drivers and all sorts of stuff that's necessary when doing stuff like this. So I'm learning as I go on some of it, but I was able to set up my output so I can give you the desktop output as well as what I'm doing. Let's give that a real quick try. So again, this is the song that came with the Soundation. Yeah, there we go. Yay, we have sound. Down a little bit. Well, that's for everybody out there. That's what this is all about. So, MCs everywhere sitting at home looking for a hobby. Alright, well, this is very exciting for me, because if anybody was with me last week, it wasn't going this way. Took a little bit of effort to get audio and everything lined up and working on the Mac, but we got it there. So yeah, that's just a quick little rundown of a demo song that comes with Soundation. I'm not going to play it again here, but I'm going to kind of just take you on a quick little walkthrough of this track, as it is really kind of a cool just way to understand music, especially if you don't have a lot of background in music. I personally don't let that be something that steers you away from wanting to make music. Music is really just about conveying an emotion through sound. So if you feel something when you hear a song and it builds an emotion inside of you, then you're a musician. You just channeled the emotion that producer was trying to convey. So, basically I've always just kind of lived by the philosophy that if you can hear it, try to make it. And if you hear it in your head, try to make it on your computer. So, on this whole setup, basically we have, as I said, this is called our digital audio workspace. So inside of here, these are all the individual tracks that are making up the song we just listened to. Zoom it out a bit so you can see they each have different bits of data on each one of these tracks. So if we're looking at these down here, you might notice that these look, these green ones and these gray ones, they look different from these ones up here that say note clip. Well, the reason for that is that this loop right here, so I'm just going to highlight, this audio file, that's an actual loop of audio drums. So if we zoom in on that, you'll see these little peaks and valleys. Those are the kick drum and the snare drum and the percussion as those are all hitting. It's the kick, here's the snare, here's another snare, these are hi-hats. So you can see this is the way that the drums are layered to create the loop that you were hearing. These are some more actual audio samples that were used to kind of build anticipation. There's also a synthesizer here, so you can see that this wave, it starts out really small and it kind of builds up larger and larger. That's something you'll hear in a lot of electronic music. It's called a build. It's just kind of heightening that anticipation. Like I said, it's all about emotion. So, generally when people are making a song that has a big heavy bass line and they want people moving to it, you want to build the anticipation for that part of the song that's going to come in. And then these other parts up here, these are MIDI clips. And MIDI is basically the language. It's a language that allows your computer to communicate with the instruments. It's something that had a much larger place in music before things became quite so advanced digitally. It used to be a lot more of a process of linking your audio and your analog and your digital, I should say. But yeah, all this is you have a little piano roll you can see on the side here, and these are all the different notes of this sound. So it looks like on this one it's actually just a drum kit, and they're not all filled in, but you can see it's got a couple of different percussion things. So this is just that little sound right there with you can hear it has some effects on it. There's you can hear it kind of going out, really takes a while before it disappears. If we look at that track, you'll see it's the SPC. Okay, cool. So the SPC, that's short for SPC 1200, which is one of the first drum machines that became incredibly popular in hip-hop music. And I believe it came out in the early 90s. It may have been out in the late 80s. Probably in the 80s. I was really young then, so I'm not going to have specific dates. But the SPC 1200 is a great drum kit if you're trying to make hip-hop, because it's ingrained in the DNA of hip-hop music. Up here you'll see this is another one of the MIDI clips with the piano roll again. So in this one, very different kind of a sound than anything else we've been looking at. This is just kind of a synthesizer that has, you can see it's called a super saw, and if you hear that kind of gritty kind of growling noise, that's due to the saw. So what the saw refers to is the actual sound wave. A sine wave, S-I-N-E, that's a very smooth wave. A saw wave is like the teeth of a saw. It's very jagged, and it creates that grumbling kind of distorted sound. So yeah, that's just a quick overview of this song. Let's just take a quick listen again so we can kind of hear those elements all working together. And I'll just point out real quick too that you'll see on the top here they have this super saw, and then right underneath it they have a simple synth that comes in here. Now that simple synth is going to be the actual bass line, and this is another trick that a lot of people do in electronic music and in hip-hop music, is to stack your bass line with a synthesizer that has the same notes, or at least something that's playing in the same melody, to kind of add power and emphasis to each of your sounds. So as keeping all of that in mind, let's take another quick listen through and just watch for as these different layers. I'm going to zoom this down too so we can see everything kind of in there together. And then you can kind of just watch and listen as different parts of the song are coming in and out. So again, in the beginning here, we just have that really simple synth, just building up anticipation, the snare. You heard the percussion with the heavy delay. You have your drum loop here, the saw, super saw kind of building what the melody is going to be. And then another pretty typical move here to kind of drop everything out right before the big drop's going to come back in with all of your elements of the song together. Bass line and that synth have very similar structure. The bass is it's not hitting as often, but they're hitting the same notes, and they're hitting the same notes at the same time. And it's a very useful tool in kind of just adding layers of sound, or in an orchestra they would call that timbre, different voices of different instruments. So yeah, layering together different synths and stuff like that is a very, very useful tool when making music. But let's jump into something of our own here. I'm not going to save that because I didn't do anything to it. And okay, so again, when you start a new track, it's just opening me up to the digital audio workspace right here. And everything right now is just blank. So I'm just going to take a quick chance to go over a few of the things that are going to be important to know when making any music. Time signature. And this is where math is going to start to come into the equation here. So every song has a time signature, which is kind of it's the grid or the ruler that it's laid out to. If you see the top of our workspace right here, there's a grid of numbers going all the way across. These represent bars in a song. So this little area that's highlighted, that's the first 4 bars. You can see it ends right at the beginning of bar number 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Inside each one of those bars, there's going to be 4 beats, which is why this is a 4/4 signature. And each one of those beats is going to be a quarter note long. So again, getting into our fractions, getting into our math, 1 quarter, obviously, 1 quarter note is going to be 1/4 of the length of 1 full bar. So a 4/4 time signature means that we have 4 quarter notes making up 1 full bar. So that 1 bar is a 4/4 time signature. And that signature is going to stay the same throughout the song. You're not going to, I mean, there might be some people that are on a whole other level and they switch up their signature mids. I don't know. Those people will have to educate me still. We're not going to look at that today. Yeah, so we're going to be just dealing with a 4/4 time signature, which is very standard in pretty much most of the music that you're hearing. There are, a lot of some Latin music will have triplets and other time signatures and stuff like that. But again, I'm not highly musically educated. That's not what I'm going to try to focus on here. I want to make this a really low bar for entry because, again, I taught myself everything that I know, and you can do the same. So I'm just trying to throw things out that might help you along the way, but don't let anything bar you from feeling like you understand it. It's all stuff you can learn as you go. Right next to the time signature here, you'll see a number. If I hover over it, you'll see the little window comes up and says this is the tempo. You can hold on to that and just drag it up and down to make the song faster or slower. So tempo is the actual speed of the song. The time signature, this is the structure of the song. We know it's a 4/4 structure, but we don't know how many beats per minute that song is until we have assigned the song a tempo. And often that tempo is going to depend on what kind of music you're making. What the samples are that you're working with. If you're creating from scratch, then you have a lot more room to kind of make it whatever you'd like, but some samples aren't going to work at different speeds. So let's add a channel and let's start working with some, we get some people saying that they hate math. Don't say that. Math is the basis of everything. We love math. Math is how we get to all of this. And I know it seems like the daunting thing in the beginning, but really math is the basis of the universe. So we have to be comfortable with it at some degree or we're going to be pretty confused walking around every day. In any case, and having said that, it's not like I like to sit down and do calculations all day. I'm not a mathematician either, but don't be afraid of math. Math is your friend. Okay, so let's jump in here. I'm going to add a new track, add a channel. So if you hear me kind of switching back and forth on terminology, bear with me. As I said, this is not the software that I normally work with. I work with a program called Ableton. To anybody out there, as a quick side note, if you have a parent that's a musician, if you have a friend that's a musician, if you have an older brother or anybody that has any sort of musical equipment at all, Ableton Live has a version of their software called Ableton Live Lite, and they will give you that for free if you have any sort of musical hardware that works with that program. So if you know somebody that has a $50 USB MIDI keyboard that they used to make beats with, and they'll let you take a picture and send it in and say, hey, my friend and I want to start making beats and he's got this keyboard and we're ready to go. They'll send you a free license for Ableton Live Lite, which I think is really amazing. I'd like to just say how great I think Ableton is as a company, and I really recommend the software because it really is very intuitive and helped me to progress really, really quickly. Again, off of that whole side note, I'm going to, I see somebody in here saying, I have a Launchpad. Well then, yeah, you can get Ableton for free. So not a lot of people know about that. It's something I stumbled across a little while ago. I just wanted to help a friend out to get started making music and realize that, yeah, you can get Light for free. So if you have a Launchpad, anything like that, just take a picture, go to the Ableton site, and they have all the instructions on there. You can email them with a photo, and they will send you a license key. But getting back into our song, I'm going to put in an audio channel firstly. So again, we were talking in the other song about how we saw actual MIDI instruments, or as they're called VSTs for virtual synthesizer technology. So we have our VSTs, and then we have our audio channels, which are going to be actual recorded audio or analog audio. Those are the two big differences when you're looking at working with sound, is whether you're working with analog, which is something that was recorded, someone playing an acoustic guitar that was mic'd. That feed through the mic is going to be an analog feed because it was coming from a human being playing that instrument. A lot of what you'll hear on the radio is just done digitally. Sorry, I know I'm not supposed to touch my face, and I apologize, but I have washed my hands, and I'm not going out anywhere, and I'm practicing very good social distancing, so trying to be aware of that. But yes, don't take my examples there, and please, everybody be safe. Anyways, back to our song. So audio channel 1, I'm going to look for a sample that I like, and we're going to start building our own song. And to everybody out there that has the software installed, you will have, or sorry, you don't have to install this software. We just had to register with the website. But once you've registered, you have access to all of these same sample packs. These are all, what's that? Yeah, I do need that. I'm kind of keeping an eye on it. Sorry. Yeah, so I have commandeered all computers for this tutorial so that I don't have the crazy feedback loop happening. So yes, everybody's involved now. So yeah, if you have signed up for an account, you will be seeing all of these same samples. So after we've done this tutorial, I recommend going through everything and playing with all sorts of different stuff. If you're going to follow along with what I'm doing right now, I recommend grabbing the same samples that I'm grabbing just so you can kind of feel along the lesson as it's going. So let's take a look at this hip hop starter kit. I haven't. Oh, it has a little preview. Ah, okay. So like a lot of sample CDs, they give you a preview of stuff that comes with this sample CD in the format of a song. Kind of cool. Has a little West Coast hip hop kind of a feel. We'll go with that. All right. So I'm just gonna click into it. Now it's gonna keep going until I stop it, huh? Okay. You can stop. We're convinced. You got some good stuff in there. All right. So if you click the little arrow to the side over here, you're going to see, boom, all of these different samples. And these samples are all going to be broken down by bits of information that are going to help you know how to use them. So you can see right in here, you've got keyboards. It's cutting short a lot of the words, and I don't see how to expand that. But you can also see the description in the actual name. So we've got drums smooth 2. The reason these all have a 90 at the front is if we look over to the beats per minute, you're going to see these are all 90 beats per minute, which for kind of, classic, old school, West Coast kind of hip hop, that's, again, pretty standard. Between 90, 93 is where a lot of that stuff will be. But feel free to break any of those rules again. So let's just grab a drum loop. Let's take a listen to some of these. I like it. It's good. Let's do some fills. Oh, this is kind of cool. Okay, so what they've done here is they've actually broken the drum loop into individual parts. So I like working with stuff like this because it gives you a lot more ability to make it individual, make it your own. Not taking you could take a full drum loop with your kick snares, hi-hats, and you can chop that up and make it into something original. But you can also take these individual layered tracks the way they have them here. So we've got the kick, and then we've got the hi-hats. I've got to make another audio channel. So let's add 2 more audio channels because we're going to need at least that just for the drums at this point. I'm going to bring the hi-hats over here, and then I need something with a snare, and I'm hoping they're going to have it laid out in a way that I can. That is pretty cool, though. Okay, you know what? In an effort to not complicate this lesson, let's take the actual drum loop. and the same everything applies. Everything I'm going to be showing you makes just as much sense on a loop as it does on a stem. And I mean, this again, these are all words that are going to seem interchangeable. Stems are stems are how you would describe each of the layers of the song. So in a drum kit, you might have several different stems because you're going to have the hi-hat, you're going to have the snare, you're going to have the kick drum. A lot of the times you'll just get a drum loop like this where everything is in there together. You have your hats, you have your kick, your snare, everything is just in the one loop. And when you play that loop, there you go. Okay, and now what we can, okay, see this? So that little glitch you heard at the end there, I'm just going to drag the end of this yellow bar all the way to the 5. What happened is our tempo started out at a different, it was at 96, I think, when I brought in the sample. And it changed the tempo of the song to match the sample so that it wouldn't, it usually asks you that, but because it was the first sample I brought in, you'll see if I go to a different sample pack, because you don't have to just stick to one. You can jump around here. It might be tougher with some stuff because they'll have different tempos, but for example, this is the Sepia hip hop pack, and they have a bunch of stuff at 90 BPM here too. So there's another drum loop. Let's find something that we could add onto here though that's some horns, kind of cool. All right, let's take a look at that. Let's bring that one over. And see, that's what I was looking for. So that one was actually at 88 beats per minute. So this is a great example of where you can change the beats per minute or the tempo of the sample, and it'll still work. And there's two ways that you can do that. The reason I'm saying it'll still work is that we're only changing it by 2 beats per minute. So it's not going to be so drastic that that sound becomes completely distorted or thrown off into some way that, you know, it's just not gonna sound appealing anymore. And again, these are all rules to try to break. Prove me wrong. Find something that you can make chipmunk fast and it still sounds cool, and I will take that as a loss. But in any case, you have 2 options when you're changing the tempo of the song. You can either change it by pitch or you can change it by time stretch. You see, these are the 2 that are coming here. Or we could say don't adjust the tempo, but then it's not going to match our drum loops. So the 2 differences here is pitch. If you've ever listened to records, like actual vinyl records, and you've had the little speed knob that you get to change on the record player, you'll notice that as you speed it up, the pitch of the voices and the instruments become much higher as it gets faster, and they get much lower as it goes slower. So that's changing speed by pitch, which we can do if we want to alter that. If we like the pitch of the sample and we want to keep that, you can just do a time stretch, which will not affect the actual pitch. It'll just shorten the actual tempo to fit the song. So we're going to do that for this sample. Okay, that's cool. It's a cool little intro, and I like those drums for an intro, but I feel like we're probably going to want to bring in something that's a little bit more... let's go back and take a look at the Hip Hop Starter Kit we were in. I'm going to take a look at a couple of their other drum loops. And I'm wondering how it would sound if we went from one into the other. So if we use the drum loop that we have now as a little bit more of a... like an introductory loop that just helps to set up the song. Why is it? Oh, I'm on channel 3. Okay. So I'm going to bring that in a little bit. Take that loop part off. Oh, actually, you know, while we have the loop in, this is... we'll do that with those drums, because again, this one's set up pretty well as a little introduction. So let's copy this. So to copy, I'm just going to click on... You'll see it kind of highlights it in a... I think that's a very light blue or a light gray. And then if I hold shift and I click on the other one, they're both highlighted. Then hold down option and you'll see the little plus sign come up, and then you can just click on them both, drag and drop them over here. And then I'm going to just chop out some of these. So let's go to the top over here. You'll see the scissor tool. I'll click on that. And I'm going to zoom in so that I can go in and I can do what's called an edit. So making an edit, this is the same as if we were editing video, editing audio. A lot of the terminology crosses over, which is good because I want to do some video tutorials too, so keep all these terms in mind. And we're just going to make a cut right here at the beginning of the 8th bar. And the reason I want to do that is I'm going to then go back onto my little the pointer, which is just a little arrow tool. And if I go hover over the very beginning of the cut that I just made, you'll see the little highlighting light blue I was talking about comes up around the slice that I just made. And I can then drag that over. So I'm cutting out all of that part of the sample, and I'm just going to keep that little bit at the end. I think I'll even drag this back on this side too, so that it'll just give us that sample for a minute. And let's take a quick listen to that. I'm going to turn off this yellow part right here. That's looping that area. So right now it's looping those first 4 bars. I want to see how this plays with the sample and with the other drums coming in. So let's check it out. Not a very good transition there. Okay, so let's keep these drums in as our main drums. But let's do this to make it interesting. So I like the way that drum loop, it has a very interesting kind of a feel. It's not a typical, a lot of drums for hip hop are just going to be like kick, snare, kick, snare. This one has kind of its own kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare, which is a little bit more like a Jamaican dancehall kind of a rhythm, honestly. But what we can do is use the scissor tool, go in, make a couple of cuts on the very front of each one of these little sound waves that you see. Each one of those is one of your drums. So you've got your kicks, your snares, and your hi-hats. And I'm just going to cut up this first bit here and just play around for a minute with these, and I'm gonna just see if I can make something that's a little bit more of a traditional kind of a hip-hoppy beat. So what I just did is erase that snare that was coming right after that kick, so it was going kick, snare, kick, snare, kick, snare. Now I'm gonna make it kick, hat, and maybe get rid of some of the kicks so it's a little bit less, yeah, just so it has its own syncopation and it's a different beat. So. Okay, again, getting used to the controls. Normally in Ableton, if you hit enter, it'll take you back to the beginning of that loop, but okay. Okay, so let's try this. So working on that same drum loop. As I said, a lot of the times with hip-hop, you'll have a kick on the first beat, snare on the second and the fourth. Kick will be first and third, snare will be second and fourth, and then you vary around that to make it interesting. But for this one, I'm going to start out with that exact pattern where we're going to put a kick on the 1 and a snare on the 2. Put some hats in there. I'm going to double up this kick again. Let's see how that's starting to sound. You can see as we start to make these changes, the beat is becoming very different. And it's going from that kind of choppy, jumpy kind of a rhythm to a more steady. So again, this whole second part is going to be the original sample. And then this first part, we're missing a snare in there. So I grabbed a hi-hat by mistake instead of a snare. Easy fix. We go to the snare, which we know is right on the second beat. So again, if we think of the time signature, 4/4, we can think of these bars as being divided up into 4 sections. So this is our first beat of the bar, our first quarter note, which goes to our second quarter note, which is the snare, which goes to our third quarter note, which is another kick drum, And then I'm going to put another snare on the 4th quarter note. And I think I will change that last. We had a doubled up kick drum there as well. I'm going to make it a snare into the kick drum. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, and as you can see, I'm liking the direction it's moving, and you can see how vastly different it is from that second bar when it comes in. This is popping for us right here. So this is so we had a hi-hat over the tail end of that drum, and that was creating something I just didn't like a little. So again, if you're not a highly trained musician, how to copy. Okay, so when you want to copy something, you just click on it, you hold down the Option key, and you drag it over to the spot that you want to copy it to. For example, this hi-hat, the snare, if I wanted to double it up, I would just grab it, holding on the Option key, copy it over here. I think this program doesn't like it if there's another audio file underneath it. So again, these are little things I'm learning as I go, because in Ableton you can just drag and drop on top of other stuff. But yeah, okay, that's creates a bit of an issue in here. So don't copy on top of another sample. Apparently this has a couple issues with that. But yeah, so that's how you copy. And as you can see, every time we copy and make it a little different, it starts to kind of grow into something else. So I'm going to take that doubled one and put that at the back here. Let's put another hi-hat here. Let's see how this one sounds right now. I like that. That's definitely sounding a little bit more like what I would like to have. So let's just, I'm going to click on the remaining part of that drum sample, and I'm just going to hit delete. Just get rid of that. We don't need it. We have it at the beginning. If we want to go back and grab anything from it, or if we want to bring in the original pattern again, we can do that. So what I'm going to do then is just drag over the space that I want to copy, which is just the first, that one bar of drums, and drag and drop it over to here. And again, what I would typically do at this point would be to make another edit in that second part of the drum loops now, so that we can have it just kind of evolve. Sometimes you want it to be just the same loop over and over because you love that loop, and a lot of 90s hip-hop, that was the case. It was a drum loop that just kind of repeated, and every once in a while they'd have a couple little edits. It was a lot more difficult back then to do edits, to be fair. Working on a computer makes it really, really easy to do pretty much anything you want. So just play around and have fun. So in the second loop here, I want to just do something to give it its own, make it have a little bit of individuality. So I'm just going to double up the snare at the end. Let's see how that sounds. So if I zoom out, we'll go back. I like that. So it's not a drastic change at all, but by adding little changes like that, you can kind of evolve and progress your song, and it just makes it a little more interesting. It gives it a little bit more, what was that? I didn't catch that hi-hat earlier, but and it is a lot like GarageBand. Yeah, I just got a comment here from Holly the Jolly Rancher that this is kind of like GarageBand. It's very, very much like GarageBand, and the truth is that most digital audio workspaces are very, very similar. It just is about learning what those tools are and how to use them. I have a question here. Does the program have vocal samples? That's a good question. I will take a look in a second. They very well might, and if not, we can always create our own. So yeah, let's take a look. So we've got our drums kind of coming along here. I'm going to sidetrack us from the vocals, excuse me, but for just 1 second, because personally I really like to start just building on the actual, the beat first. To me, the way that I would kind of work is I'll start with this drum loop right here, the one that I'm making. I already kind of started making a little introduction just because I wanted to go through the process involved there, but really I start my song out generally in this area because making the drum loop is a lot of fun. It's one of my favorite parts of working on music. And to me, the drums and the bass and the melody, those are kind of, those Those are the three main parts of a track in my eyes. So yeah, let's take a look through and look for either some bass or some melody or something. We have this sample in the beginning that we want to kind of keep in mind, because if we could find something that, or maybe we can even keep that sample, that might work for more than just the intro. Let's take a quick listen to that and see how it works with the drums as they were, and then that sample over some new drumming. Some other stuff in here to make it more interesting. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that's working here. This is a little boring to me. I thought that we could just kind of bring that back in, but it's not really doing a whole lot. So I think what we'll do is let's just erase that, and let's grab a snare from right ahead of it. And this is also something that just works a lot of the time, something I do often, is just have the snares come in right before the whole beat is going to drop. I have just a little snare roll. Okay, so we have a little beat starting to form. Let's go over and copy this whole drum section again so that we have enough to fill that space that goes all the way. We're filling this 4-bar loop right here. And then let's go through and look for a sample that would work with that. I really want like a bass line or something at this point. So what you can do is you can go up to the top here and just type in what you're looking for. And here's all the bass lines in the sample pack that I'm inside of right now. So it's kind of cool. At this point, I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so this does the sample that we took is in E. We don't have anything in E over here. So I'm going to go back over. So what I was just looking at right there is the actual the note that or the chord that is being played. So you know, a lot of these different melodies are all coming out of different major chords, minor chords, different. Again, this is getting into an area that is just going to bog us down for a really long time if we get into it. So let's not. But I'm going to look for something that is also in the same, something that is labeled as E. So if you look over here, you'll see these D with the little M that stands for minor. It's D minor. This is in D. So I'm going to go back to the, was it the Sepia Hip Hop Pack? And I'm going to search for bass again. Oh, nothing in the Sepia Pack. Okay. Let's just search everything. Okay, so I'm going to search all the sample CDs for bass. And I'm going to look for stuff that is in the same note and the same speed kind of range is what I'm working on. That might take a while. Let's go back into the Sepia Pack. Oh, I didn't have a bass there. Okay, you know what? We're going to just grab a bass, drag it over, and see how it sounds. And if we have a clash, we will learn from that. And again, that's how we learn most of what we learn, is by doing it wrong and then figuring out what it should be. So I'm going to check this one. That's cool. I like that. That's a very kind of a clean sub bass. I hope that one's going to fit, because that's good. Let's see how it sounds. So again, a lot of this, you don't have to overthink it. You don't worry about the chords or what's being played right now. Just worry about trying to make something that is appealing to your ear. So let's hear that. So that first part sounded really good. The second part, not as much, but it might work towards the end somewhere. So I'm just going to cut that in half. I'm going to move this over. I don't need it right now. And I'm going to copy this over again. And let's hear that one more time. Okay, now we have like a very interesting little loop started, and it's beginning to kind of form something that can be a song. So again, let's see where we can take it from here. And you can do the same thing on the bass line or on the sample here that I was doing earlier, which is to chop it up and, you know, create interesting new things with it. Like maybe for let's try something right here with this. Maybe I'm just going to cut that part where we have everything else drop out. I'll go back to my pointer tool, and if you right click on it, you have this option right here to reverse the clip. Let's try that. That's just going to, just like it said, it's going to reverse the audio clip, so we're going to get that backward pulled feeling out of these sounds. Nah. See, sometimes you try stuff and it just doesn't quite work. So we'll go up, we'll do undo on that. Just erase that and drag it out. And there we have the original sample again. We definitely need like a rise. Let's see if I search if I can get a rise. Nothing. Try the whole thing. Because I'm sure some of those electronic kits, yeah, see? So with stuff like dubstep and trap, all of those, risers are a huge part. And this is a riser. An example of a riser. So you can see it's just climbing and climbing, and that's the whole purpose. Is just build anticipation. That one's kind of cool. Oh, I got to create another audio channel. And I didn't forget about the vocals. I'm going to take a look right after I drop this guy onto this channel. And I am going to time stretch that to fit. And you can see where the apex of that is, where it gets its loudest, is right here. And I want to have that part right where the new beat's about to drop in. So let's hear that from the beginning. So we can see we've got something kind of interesting started here, and you know it's not a hard process as you guys just saw. It's really just about using your ears and finding what you think is appealing. And if it appeals to you, chances are it's going to appeal to other people. We all have a collective ear, and there's music that has withstood the test of times that we all love, and there's a reason for that. There's some things that kind of stay constant through everything. So we do have a bunch of vocal samples to chow. Yes, we do have a bunch of vocal samples. Let's take a look at a couple of them, see what they got. Very nice female vocal sample. Very cool. Let's see if we can make it fit. And this is the whole process. Is just if you hear something, I like the way that sounded. It kind of reminded me of like old Soul to Soul, Back to Life. I'm feeling that. I love the intro to that song. Let's just drag it in, drop it on. Oh, we got lucky. It was at the same tempo as our song. It was at 90 beats per minute, and it's an E minor. So it might not fit with the sample, but let's just take a listen. actually works really well. So there's one of those happy moments where you're like, I didn't think that would fit, and it sounds lovely. So I'm just going to drag those vocals out so that they carry through that whole intro area, and that'll kind of help to transition into the drop, which is where the bass line comes in. So as you can see now, we kind of have, starting to mimic that demo song that we were looking at in the beginning, where we have, I haven't brought in any of the virtual instruments yet because we're just kind of working with loops, but we can progress into that as these lessons continue. Now that I don't have all of these crazy technology issues that are making me rip all of my hair out, I plan to be doing a whole lot more of these. But we've still got a couple minutes, so let's hear that with the vocals going into our new little chopped up drum line and our bass loop. So we're building a song now, and it's really starting to sound really good. So I'm liking this one. Think where I would typically go from here is I'm really liking this whole area that we built with the drop and the sample and our chopped up drums. And I'm going to want to keep that going. Someone was asking earlier about, who's going to be emceeing on this, who's going to be doing vocals, and the truth is that's where I'm hoping you guys are going to take it, and I'm hoping you can make songs that you can do vocals on top of. And this area that I'm kind of building out right now would be for one of the main verses in the track. Often you'll see verses about 16 bars. That's kind of a standard. If you're going back and forth with hooks and verses, you might see, often you'll see a 16 bar verse. Right now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And what I did is I just got rid of the horn sample so that it'll change up a little bit, just the same way that we wanted to change up the pattern in the drumming. We take parts out of the mix so that it emphasizes other parts of the mix. So in this song, I'm taking out the horns on the second part here so that you will, in this area right here, I'm taking out the horns so that you're going to pay more attention to the bass line. And I haven't changed the bass line, I haven't changed the drums, it's exactly the same as that first part, but the difference is that you're not hearing the sample of the horns anymore. Your computer just died, so anybody in the comment section, I can no longer read your comments, and I apologize. But we're almost done here anyway, so I'm going to wrap up, and let's take a listen to these 8 bars now that we took that sample out, and just listen for how it kind of changes up the sound and makes it, it just gives it its own little moment to shine. So the only thing I wasn't crazy about right there was how that horn just cut off very suddenly and didn't really, it just felt very abrupt, very like, hey, what happened there? So what I would do in a situation like that is I would start looking for the effects. And, well, looks like I have to add those in a different way. You know what, we're going to start in on effects on the next lesson because I could spend an hour talking about effects alone. I'm going to save this song because it actually is starting to come together pretty cool, and maybe we will use this as the basis. If you were following along and you kind of have something built into, save it, and we'll continue to build on that song so you're not just doing the same thing every time. There is so much to learn when it comes to digital music production. It really is an infinite quest of learning, and there's so many resources. There's so many incredible YouTube videos and tutorials and online forums where you can just go read about FM synthesis and creating your own synthesizer sounds, creating your own presets. You can get instruments where you play with all of the parameters and the filters, and you create the exact sound you want. You can then save that sound and use it multiple times in different songs, adjust it so it's slightly different, but you have a starting point that you really, really like. So yeah, everybody that stayed around for the lesson, I hope you guys liked it. And as I said, we're going to be doing a lot more of these. I'm kind of putting together a curriculum now on how we can go through a stage at a time and build a song up. So today was a good start. I'm glad we got through our early hiccups and our technological issues, but I now know how to handle that, and going forward I'll have my phone up so I can see everybody's comments as I'm doing the broadcast. So yeah, everybody, I hope you had a good time today, and I look forward to getting to do a lot more of these and on a regular schedule, so you can make it a part of your day and know, hey, let's go make some music for an hour. Cool. All right, everybody, stay safe out there. I hope everybody is with their loved ones and just enjoying this time, because we often don't have enough time with the people we do care about. So even if it's a little bit crazy being cooped up all the time, be grateful for the ones we got around us. And everybody be good to each other. I will see you guys soon. Have a great day.